Well, I've been living with this for 3.5 years when I first put out the information about Biden's bribery in Ukraine. And I lived through that. I got up every morning from the first moment I got that hard drive saying to myself, how can I get this to my fellow citizens? Because you just read just a little bit of it, and you realize the candidate of the Democrat Party was a lifelong criminal. And I mean, there are 50, 60 crimes outlined there. And I'm not saying that lightly. I mean, I spent my life prosecuting criminals. Now, I know crime. I know RICO as the first one to prosecute it successfully. There are several racketeering cases in which Joe Biden would be similar to the head of an organized crime family. He took millions of dollars in bribes, millions. This is the biggest corruption case that I can find in the history of this country, and it was covered up by the major part of the media in this country.
And by the way, of course, Republicans are clearly going to be looking into if that happened or not, because that's top of the list for them, as you heard.
I hope they do, and I hope they follow through, because I know the pressure they put on you at the very end, and a lot of people have caved, like Barr. Bill Barr caved like an empty suit.
Do you think that they will go through with it, or do you think it's just words that they're looking into it?
I believe they will. I have great regard for the Republicans in the House, particularly Jim Jordan and anybody associated with him.
So,
These
Rudy,
are patriots.
let me ask you, too, about this, because this new dump. Do you believe this is criminal behavior when you see this sort of concerted effort and in some of the emails it suggests, Rudy, that, you see work with the FBI, with the DHS, with the Defense Intelligence Agency, having consistent meetings with Twitter, and then they are finding ways to sort of suppress President Trump and other conservatives. Why do you believe it rises to criminal?
Well, I think it began to be criminal the day that Hillary Clinton paid for the misinformation regarding Russia. She paid $1.1 million to develop a story to frame an innocent man. When that innocent man became the president and they continued to pursue the story, including every one of those January 6th committee member phonies, who were big parts of this, by the way. It's a joke to watch them put out a report on January 6th when they should be in jail for trying to organize a coup against the president. Those are the people who floated the purchased false story of Russian collusion. That's conspiracy to defraud the United States. How many perjuries were committed? This guy Baker, who organized this Twitter thing, he should have been in jail 2 years earlier if Barr had the courage to prosecute him. If that guy up in Connecticut that takes 100 years to write out 2 paragraphs would have prosecuted him. Why were those FBI guys let go? Strzok, Comey committed out-and-out perjury 4 times.
Yeah, there are so many. By the way, there are so many questions. Of course, they say they didn't, but there are so many questions. Rudy, before I let you go, go ahead real quick, Rudy.
But it's proven that they did. It's not even a speculation any longer. He lied about the entire Steele dossier. It's been proven that the Steele dossier was not only untrue, it was created and paid for.
And also, by the way, there are reports, too, that they were trying to get him to do it and that he backed out. Yeah. So, no, I hear what you're saying. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that Comey, of course, says that, what he was doing was on the up and up. There's going to be a lot of questions.
John Gotti said he was innocent, too. I mean, everybody they ever prosecuted said they were innocent. I rarely have prosecuted a guilty man. Even though a couple of them were Nazis and a lot of them were organized criminals and corrupt politicians and congressmen, and they all were found guilty. But I mean, of course, Comey says he was innocent. That's a joke.
Well, that's why. By the way, I can't wait to see what the Republicans uncover too. Being able to get records.
I think these guys. This is not the Senate. This is not the weak, frightened, except for Johnson and Grassley Senate, who could have revealed this, several years ago. I had this whole thing basically, or let's say half of it, certainly enough to prosecute in 2019. I gave it to Hannity in early 2019, then to John Solomon, then to Mike Pompeo, who also buried it. And you should know that now that he's running for president. And I'll tell you the whole story of that at some point. I'll write it out. And then Barr buried it in January of 2020. And I didn't know that Barr had the hard drive.
Well, hopefully
And
it
he
doesn't
covered up
get
the hard
buried
drive.
starting January 3rd. Rudy, before we let you go, because I want to make sure I get to other areas too on this, a lot of important
Sure.
stuff today, Rudy. I want to turn to President Biden really quickly, swapping out the notorious arms dealer Victor Boot for Brittany Griner. I want to put up, this is interesting. This is a meme, of course, and when you see it, it's obviously a little facetious. Here they're quoting Sun Tzu, of course, the great Chinese military general, strategist, philosopher. When conducting a proxy war, trade them their most notorious arms dealer for a basketball player, obviously being facetious there.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting meme that's going around. What do you make of this trade?
It's just another indication of how Joe Biden gets people killed. I mean, this guy is going to kill people. That's what he's an expert at. Bout is a merchant of death. You know, that's not just a. This guy has produced arms for the worst anti-American dictators and killers in the world. He was an expert that worked for Putin before. And I mean, it's actually completely crazy that Biden is giving hundreds of millions to Ukraine to defeat Russia. And then he's giving Russia, the biggest arms dealer in the world, just at a time that they don't have arms. I mean, this is crazy. This guy is going to be responsible for the death of thousands and thousands and thousands of Ukrainians, probably starting in a few weeks. And then he's on the other side of the war. When are we going to face up to the fact that we have a president who is not of sound mind? He's getting people killed because he's not of sound mind. And we don't have a patriot anywhere that's willing to stand up and say, how about the 25th Amendment, huh? This guy doesn't belong in the White House.
Well, a lot of people have questions on that deal.
He doesn't belong
Rudy,
making decisions about the life and death of people because he's getting them killed.
And a lot of people are deeply concerned about that trade, thinking that now it is sort of open season on Americans. It is really
100%.
heartbreaking to hear that.
It would be hard to say it's the most irresponsible thing he did. Afghanistan has already resulted in the $85 billion worth of arms that he put in the hands of terrorists. It's already responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths. And as Elon Musk said, who's more and more becoming a hero to me, he said, why are we surprised he left a Marine behind in Russia? Look at all the people he left behind and died in Afghanistan.